Hello everyone, Caresoft Technology would like to welcome you to our virtual collaboration bootcamp webinar series, Advanced Training Beyond the DCO Basics. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Audio can be heard today through your computer speakers. We hope you take full advantage of the Q&A pod displayed on the left side of your screen to ask any questions you may have. We will do our best to answer all of your questions throughout and at the end of the presentation. If for some reason we do not get to your questions, our team will certainly follow up with you offline. To tell you a little bit about Caresoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider, delivering software and support solutions to federal, state, and local government agencies. Caresoft maintains dedicated teams to support sales and marketing for all its vendors, including Adobe and Defense Connect Online. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation, so please don't hesitate to call or email us with any of your needs. This webinar is also being recorded, and a copy of the presentation will be emailed to you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Ashley Keating, Defense Connect Online User Engagement Manager. Ashley, the floor is all yours.
Great, thank you, Sam. Let me go ahead and start my webcam so you can see who you're dealing with today. Okay, I'm just using my built-in laptop webcam today, so the quality's not great, but here we go. So today you're in the advanced training. This is Beyond the Basics for DCO. I saw a lot of names familiar from yesterday, so I think a lot of you sat in on the beginner class, and now you're sitting in on the advanced class, which is awesome. Tomorrow we have a class that takes DCO even a little bit further, a bunch of stuff you didn't know you could do with DCO, so certainly feel free to sit in on that class as well. Okay, let me go ahead and pause my webcam here. I find it really distracting to have that thing on while I'm presenting. Okay. So the agenda today, I'm not going to kill you with PowerPoint. We just have a couple of slides that we're going to walk through, and then the majority of today's class is going to be demo and screen sharing. If you have any questions at all, as Sam mentioned, please don't hesitate to throw them into that Q&A pod, which is on the left side of your screen. While I'm screen sharing, I won't be monitoring the Q&A pod, but we have some fine folks backstage who will be able to answer all those questions while I'm presenting. So please don't hesitate to ask anything, and we will have some Q&A time at the end as well. Okay, so let's jump into this. So just for those of you who are newer to DCO, DCO is not one product. It's actually a suite of collaboration tools available to you in the DoD. Today, right now, we're in a DCO Connect meeting room. This is what we're going to spend the entirety of today's presentation talking about. But I did just want to mention the two other pieces of DCO that you have access to as a registered DCO user. One is the DCO portal. That's where you go to register for a DCO account. You can find training on the DCO portal. You can reset your password. So you're probably familiar with that as well. DCO chat client, you may or may not be familiar with. This is the instant messaging chat client that, again, is DoD-wide. You can connect to any other DCO user, any of the 1 million plus registered users that we have using this DCO chat client. So that is available to you as well. Actually, before we move on, I'm curious if anyone has ever used that DCO chat client. So if you wouldn't mind answering this quick poll for me, and we'll see. Most people, when they think of DCO DCO Connect, which again is this web conferencing solution that we're using today, built on Adobe Connect. But that chat client does give you some great flexibility for one-to-one text chatting as well as text chat conference rooms. Okay, so it looks like some people have used it, some people have not. So again, that is available to you on the DCO portal. For most of you who have government-issued laptops, it will actually already be available to you, already downloaded on your machine. If you go down to that Start menu and search for DCO Chat or DCO XMPP. So please take advantage of that as well. Okay, so moving on. Real quick highlights. Most of you guys know this, I think, but we earlier this year reached 1 million registered users, which is an awesome statistic that we're super proud of. We also last year used over 600 million web conferencing minutes in 1 year. So certainly a system that's used across the DoD by virtually every DoD organization out there. And some use case examples. So again, I think a lot of people think of DCO as a virtual meeting tool. It definitely is. But these are some use cases that I like to just put up that are available to you as well. Training webinars like we're doing today, organizational all hands, group activities, humanitarian and relief efforts, communities of interest. So one more poll. Told you I would keep you guys engaged today. If you would select, and you can select all that apply, the things you would like to do with DCO. So it doesn't have to be things that you've done in the past, but what you'd like to use DCO for. Looks like I spelled collaboration wrong. Sorry about that. So we'll just take a few more seconds to answer this poll question. So it looks like it's pretty split. Oh, let me broadcast the results for you guys. Sorry about that. So you can see what other people in the webinar think and say. Okay, so training, distance learning, team collaboration, meetings, conferences. Okay, great. I'll go ahead and get rid of this poll too. Thanks for answering that. Okay, so I'm done with PowerPoint. I think it's time to move on to the live demo. I'm going to go ahead and flip layouts here and start up my screen share. So what I'm going to do today is actually screen share another DCO Connect meeting room so that you can see everything I'm doing. As participants, which is what you are all today, you can only see certain things that a host has access to. So in order to get the full host experience, I want to screen share this other room so you guys can really follow along with me today. So you should all be seeing that screen share into a different DCO room. So DCO can certainly be used for off-the-cuff, on-the-fly type of meeting. So if you and I are in a conference call and we realize it would make sense for us to jump into a room, we can do that. DCO is available to you 24/7. Once you create a meeting room, you can just use it anytime you want. Today's session, however, is really focused more on meetings that you've planned ahead of time. So something like today's session, maybe a training or an important meeting. So we're going to walk through the things you'd want to think about as you're setting up your DCO room for that meeting. So we're thinking about this in terms of the prep work that you do maybe a week or 2 weeks ahead of time, the pre-meeting things you do. So this is the day of, maybe the hour before. We'll talk about some tips and tricks for during the meeting itself. Some of you may be on laptops or computers that have very small monitors. At any time you'd like, you are welcome to touch this full screen button, which is available to you in the top right-hand corner of the SharePod. And that will blow up that SharePod so that it takes up the full screen so that you're able to see what I'm doing more clearly. Some of the pieces in the room are pretty small. So the first thing we're going to talk about are layouts. So I know Aaron touched on this briefly yesterday. For those of you who are not there, layouts are these icons you can find along the right side of your screen. And you can think of layouts as separate rooms within your DCO house. So my DCO Connect room is my house, and each of these different layouts serve a different function. Maybe they have different furniture in there. So as I click on these different layouts, you'll see that the room rebuilds, and now I have different pods available to me. Click on another one. There you go. Now we have this video available to me. So layouts are a really great way to move through a presentation without having to stop and upload content. It's also a good way to If they want polls, they can do that. If they want, a different PowerPoint presentation, maybe a video, they can customize these layouts as they'd like. So of course, DCO is very customizable. So if you would like to add or delete layouts, you can certainly do that. Down here at the bottom, you have this little plus sign. When you click on that, you get an option to create a new layout. So when you first create a DCO meeting room, you will start out with 4 layouts, I believe. You can modify those as you'd like. You can either create a totally new layout, or you can actually duplicate an existing layout. So if you have 5 speakers and you want them all to have the same pods on their layout, a share pod, an attendee list, and a notes pod, for example, you can simply duplicate that and recreate everything. Okay, so those are layouts. So layouts are definitely something that you'll want to set up well ahead of time. You want to think about the flow of your meeting and how many presenters you're going to have, and then go ahead and set up those layouts accordingly. Some hosts want to set up and manage the layouts themselves. Some hosts like to let their presenters upload their own material and design the layouts. That's completely up to you, but that is something you'll want to do ahead of time. One type of layout that we like to recommend is a lobby layout. And again, I think Aaron might have touched on this briefly yesterday, so we won't cover it in too much depth, but it bears repeating today. Specifically for a very large or formal meeting, that's what we call a lobby layout. So I'm going to go ahead and flip layouts. You'll see there's a chat pod here, an attendee list. You can have slides that rotate. You can have notes. So this is a really nice way for you to let people know when they come into the meeting, maybe 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early, that they're in the right place, that you are in control of the meeting, and that everything is going according to plan. As you saw in today's meeting, you can have music playing to let them know whether or not their speakers are working. You can have a countdown timer to let them know when we'll begin. In the virtual world, you have to let people know that there's someone can be a really nice professional way to welcome people into your meeting. And then when you're ready to start your meeting, just as we did in today's session, click on that next layout, and it'll pop you right into the part of the presentation where you'd like to be. One other layout that we like to recommend is a closing layout. And again, you don't have to do these, but for a very large meeting or a very you to close your meeting, and again, a very professional way. So you can collect additional information about your participants, so maybe things they liked or didn't like about the training. You can have a file share pod in here where they can download documents that you've prepared for them ahead of time. And then, of course, a chat pod or a Q&A pod, we always recommend those. So just an example of a closing layout as well. In between those, you would have all of your content. Okay, so layout. So those are the things you'd want to do, a couple things you'd want to do. And create polls on the fly. However, that means your entire audience will have to sit there while you're creating the poll. So we recommend you set them up ahead of time. You can see when I go to this poll option, I have all of the polls that I've set up ahead of time still listed. So if I want to just pull a poll right into the meeting room, I just click on it and it's right in the session. That way there's no sitting around and waiting. I can close and open the poll if I want to make changes to it. So a really good thing to do, again, ahead of time. Okay, another thing, another advanced tip that we would recommend is setting a room background. So right now, you can see in my DCO room, it's very gray. If I didn't have PowerPoint slides up at all, it would be gray on gray on gray. You do have a way to set a room background similar to the one that we have in today's session. So to set this up, I would go to Preferences. Your first option here is Room Background. So I would just need to pull in an image that I'd like to use on the background of my room. Let's pull in the soldier image. We'll give it a second to load up on the screen. This is kind of a larger image, so it might take a moment here. Okay, and then once I click Done, now you can see my room has some color. Certainly the pods are going to be on top of this room background, but every time I flip between layouts, the audience gets a little flash of color, a little flash of that image. And for any layout that's not completely covered by pods, certainly the audience can see that. So one really nice thing that I've seen some organizations do is use an image of their installation, maybe the organizational logo as the background. So again, just gives your room a really nice professional look for your meeting. Okay, so let's talk about assigning roles. We'll go ahead and pull in an attendee list. And as a reminder, anytime you want to pull in pods that are not on the screen at the moment, so it's just myself and this unknown guest in the room, which is also myself today. So I just want to show you how easy it is to switch folks between different roles. So you can do this on the fly, as I'm going to show you right now. What we recommend for a very large meeting is to assign roles using the DCO portal. So again, if I want to switch while I'm in the meeting, certainly I can just toggle folks back and forth. Let's jump over to the portal, and I'll show you how you would do this on the DCO portal. Go ahead and log in. So the difference between assigning roles on the portal ahead of time and just toggling between roles in the meeting room itself is if I set these up ahead of time, then people can come into my meeting room already designated in the role they need to be. So if Eric is going to be my co-host in this meeting, I can go on the DCO portal, assign him to be a co-host, and then he's able to come into the room ahead of time, even if I'm not there. If I'm out sick one day, he can just come right into that meeting room as if he were me. So we'll go ahead and click on a room. So you have this option when you first set up a meeting room, and then now I'm looking at a meeting room I've already created. I go into the Edit Details, and now I can add or remove participants. So again, what we recommend doing is setting folks up ahead of time, maybe a few hosts or presenters, depending on how large your meeting is. Okay, so let's jump back into our demo, into our room here. Okay, so we talked about all the things you'd want to do ahead of time as you're setting up your room. Now we're going to jump into the things you might want to do the day of the meeting. Maybe this is the hour before, maybe this is the morning if you have an afternoon meeting. So the first thing we always recommend, and I know this is so hard, is closing any programs you're not using. So sometimes it's not possible for you to close down your instant messaging client. Maybe you have to have your email open. But if there's any way for you to close those down, that will help save your computer resources, particularly any resources that ping the internet. This will help ensure that your session is much smoother. So, for example, today's session, I've closed down email, I've closed down IM. Really the only things I have open on my computer are related to DCO. Okay, so some other things to think about pre-meeting let's talk about some bandwidth best practices. I know a lot of you out there are on DoD networks that may or may not have huge bandwidth. So let's talk about some ways to really help conserve that bandwidth. One is to always pause the video. So what we like to do, similar to the way we did today, is during an introduction or during PowerPoint slides, we have the webcam running. But once you're doing screen sharing, you either want to just pause that webcam, or, as we have today, I have a still image in that top left-hand corner. That helps save some of your bandwidth. Your audience still gets the wonderful benefit of seeing the speaker, seeing their beautiful face, but it doesn't take up as much bandwidth as you would having live video streaming into your room. Another bandwidth best practice we recommend is always to upload over screen sharing. So right now what I'm doing is screen sharing. The reason being this is all live demo, so certainly not as powerful if I just show PowerPoint slides of what I'm doing. However, if I just had PowerPoint slides or a PDF to go through, I would absolutely upload that directly into a SharePod. That will convert that piece of content into a piece of Flash content, and then the bandwidth within the room that it's consuming is essentially negligible. So again, just something really to think about. And then lastly, you can always monitor how the meeting is going in terms of bandwidth consumption with this little green light in the top right-hand corner. So this is available to all the attendees in your meeting. It's individualized. If you go ahead and click on that, it'll show you your connection status, your latency, maybe the connection status is fair, it'll be yellow, and if it goes red or black, then you know there's something big going on. So you can see right now, we're not really doing anything in this room, so the speeds are very, very small, latency is very small. As we start to do in today, if you'd like, in the, again, top right-hand corner, you should have a little bar similar to the one that's shown here. Hopefully it's green, maybe it's yellow. You can click on it and take a look at what your connection status is. Okay, and always, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the Q&A pod. We are covering a ton of material today, so my colleagues on the back end would be happy to answer any questions you have. All right, so let's talk about audio best practices. So as most of you or all of you know, DCO is not equipped with integrated telephony, meaning that your only option for audio is what we're using today, the voice over IP, that's available through DCO. So your computer speakers, your computer microphone. So you have to be cognizant that your audio is going over the internet. It's not going over the phone. Speak on your meeting absolutely should run through the audio setup wizard. So that wizard is found under Meeting, Audio Setup Wizard. Anyone with speaking rights can run through this. You can do this while the meeting is going on. It just takes a couple of seconds. And what this will do will help set up and adjust your audio device to make sure that you're broadcasting and receiving audio. So let's walk through this quickly. That will play a sound to let me know that my speakers are working correctly. This next piece is really important. This allows you to select which microphone DCO thinks you're going to be using. So I have two microphones listed here. I think I'm using my USB headset, which is what's selected in DCO, which is great. quite far away from that built-in microphone. So really important to go in and set this appropriately with the microphone you think you're using. You can do a test recording to make sure that the audio is getting in properly, making sure your device is not muted or something else is happening. Test the silence, and then that's it, then you're done. So again, really quick and easy, but it absolutely will help you circumvent audio issues for you and any presenters that you have. So some other best practices that I'll mention. I mentioned that I'm on a USB headset today. That's absolutely a best practice. You're always going to get clearer audio if you can be on a USB headset over, for example, a built-in microphone on your laptop or a built-in microphone on a webcam. You can certainly use those microphones, but your audio will be clearer if you have a headset, if you can use that. So some folks love to jump into DCO and they'll be in a room with 200 people and they just want to give audio rights to everyone. Problem is, you'll start getting hot mics. People who maybe don't know they have audio rights or who've never used DCO will be clicking on things, turning on their microphone, then they're broadcasting static into the meeting room. It's just not a very clear experience. So again, only give audio rights to people who need them. Hosts and presenters will automatically have audio rights, and for any of your guests or your participants, you can give them audio rights. The easiest way to do this is simply hover over their name, as I'm doing here, and click the Enable Audio. Now you'll see that my guest has a little microphone next to her name. Now she has the ability to speak. She's not automatically speaking. She will have to enable her microphone, but now she has the ability. You can certainly multi-select by holding down the Shift or Control key if you'd like to give many people audio rights in a meeting. So let's go ahead and disable that. And hosts. Okay, so we're still in this pre-meeting, things you'd want to do maybe an hour before the meeting starts. One that we always recommend is to do a test recording. So I think one of the huge benefits of a virtual meeting over an in-person meeting is the ability to record. Just want a refresher, maybe it's a training class, they can go back and again see exactly what happened. So to do a test recording, simply under Meeting, Record Meeting, you'll want to name this something, test, maybe today's date, I think it's the 6th. Oops, looks like I've done that test already. SEO training. Okay, so now you can see my meeting is being recorded. I recommend you do some things in the meeting room, things that you would be doing anyway, maybe flip through a bunch of different slides. You'll want to record a little bit of audio. Then we'll go ahead and stop that recording. We just need a couple of minutes. Then actually go back on the DCO portal and replay that recording. Make sure everything is coming through correctly, the audio sounds okay. And then you'll know you're good for your upcoming meeting. Okay, so the last piece to think about pre-meeting as you're getting set up is changing your role from a host to a participant. So you certainly can log into a single DCO room multiple times. So today I'm logged in as a guest and as a host, so I can flip back and forth between is to just make yourself either a presenter or a participant. So you'll see when I make myself a participant, my options within the room become much less. So right now you can see we have a lot of options in the share pod. Let me go ahead and toggle myself down. Now you see as a participant, I don't have the options to flip the slides, many fewer options across the board. But this is really a great way for a host to look and see what the room looks like to a participant, particularly if you're planning to screen share or have very text-heavy slides. Just want to go under Meeting, change my role. And now I'm back as a host. All right, so those are all the things we're going to want to do pre-meeting. Now we're going to jump into some tips and tricks during the actual meeting itself. Okay, the first one is tiling pods. We talked about layouts earlier, which is one very good, succinct way to move through content in a presentation. However, you'll notice as I toggle between these layouts, there's a little bit of time that the room takes to rebuild, repopulate the pods, which may be okay for your presentation and it may not be. If it's not, there's another way you can advance through multiple pieces of content, and that's layering pods on top of one another. So the way I would do this is put the piece of content that is going last during my meeting at the very bottom. On top of that, I would put any content that's going in front. So maybe I'm going to give this DCO Advanced Training PowerPoint. Maybe Sam is going to talk through this best practices PDF. And then maybe I have some other piece of content. Maybe I have this video. And that's going to go first. So I'll just go ahead and put that on top. Okay, so now you can see it looks like I just have one piece of content. You can go ahead and start moving through this presentation. Once I'm done with this piece of content, I simply go up to the top right-hand corner and select Hide. This pod will disappear. And boom, right there, without any delay, I have my next piece of content. So at this point, I would just throw it over to Sam. She can walk through everything she wants to talk about, go through this presentation. Then again, when she's done, she simply hides this, and then we're on to the last piece of content. So this is a great way to allow a video to pre-cache, so you don't have to sit there and wait while it's buffering. And it's also just a great way to move through content if you have one speaker or several speakers who are going to be using the same layout or slides. Okay, some other tips and tricks that we'll talk about. One is the PowerPoint sidebar area. So most of you probably use PowerPoint in your DCO meetings. That is, I would say by far, the most widely consumed content within a room. So there are some interesting things you can do with PowerPoint. I'll show you some. I'll go ahead and make this a little larger so you can see it better. Okay, so one is down here in the bottom left-hand corner, this little button that looks like a microwave. It is actually not a microwave. This is the sidebar area. We'll go ahead and click that. Now you have this really nifty outline of all your PowerPoint slides available to you. So this allows you to move non-sequentially through your PowerPoint deck. So if I want to go from slide 1, then I'm going to skip slides 2 and 3 and go straight to slide 4, maybe slide 7, back to slide 2. So again, a really great way to move non-sequentially through your slides. This also allows you to have notes typed up. I don't know if I have any notes. Let's see. It's like I don't have any notes with this PowerPoint presentation, but if I did, they would show up in this sidebar area. So I don't have to have a separate document with all my notes or talking points. I can have it all right here within DCO. This area is not available for participants to see unless you let them. So there's a little button down here that says Show Sidebar to Participants. So if I, for some reason, want them to see the notes, let's say I want to be 508 compliant, I have all of my notes written out for someone who's hard of hearing, that would be a reason that I want to show the sidebar area to participants. A lot of times, again, I just use it to have my talking points and my notes listed there. The last thing that's interesting with the sidebar area is it has a search feature. So if I'm looking for a specific word within my deck, if I go ahead and click on that, or type it in here, then I can jump right to the slide or slides that have that word listed. Okay, so that's the sidebar area. Another interesting feature, once you enable this sidebar area, down here at the bottom, you have this little sync button. So generally speaking, when you're going through a PowerPoint deck, you almost always have this sync button depressed so that everyone is seeing the same slide. However, you can undepress it, click on it, and now everyone in the presentation has the ability to click through the slides at their own rate. What's nice about this, maybe you're doing a training class, you want to give people 10 minutes to review some material on their own, unsync it, let them review that material, then when you're ready for everyone to come back together, go ahead and sync it back up. So really nice little feature that you have. This also gives you the ability to automatically play through slides without you having to change the slides. So if I click on this play bar, you can see the slides are going to start automatically flipping every 5 seconds. So this is really nice for a lobby layout. If you have notes or text that you want people to see but you don't want to have to sit there and flip through them, you can enable this sidebar area and then go ahead and click on that play button. Okay, so we'll go ahead and sync back up, jump back to our presentation, click that off. Okay, so that's the PowerPoint sidebar area. Do want to mention briefly, DCO does give you the ability to upload PDF documents. So if you have a Word document that you'd like to share that's not a document you can natively upload into the room. However, you can certainly change it into a PowerPoint document and bring it into the room. You could also do a PowerPoint capture of a internet site, an Excel file, many ways that you can change a document into a PDF. So let's go ahead and pull one of those in. We'll pull a PDF in here now. Gives you lots of different options. You can certainly, just scroll through the PDF as you would PowerPoint. You can fit it so you can see the entire page in one screen, or you can fit the width. So lots of different options here. If you want to rotate it clockwise, you can do that. One other great thing to mention is for any piece of content that you have uploaded into the SharePod, you have the ability to whiteboard directly over it. So this includes PowerPoint documents. I would go ahead and click on this Draw button. And now I essentially have an overlay on top of the content that I have in the SharePod. So I'm not changing the content of the SharePod. I'm simply essentially writing on top of it. So if I want to circle something, maybe I want to add additional text here, focus people's attention, and et cetera, et cetera. Then when I'm done, I simply turn those draw features off, and my piece of content is back the way it was. Okay, so that's PDF. We'll go ahead and hide this document. So the presenter-only area, one of my very favorite features and something that we use in almost every single one of our meetings. This is available in every DCO room. You just have to enable it in order for it to be available to see. So under Meeting, Enable Presenter-Only Area, go ahead and click that. This opens up an entirely new area that's only able to be viewed by hosts and presenters. So this is similar to Backstage if you're a theatrical person. So this is just for other hosts and presenters. What's really nice about this, it gives presenters the ability to chat back and forth to one another. So I could say, hurry up, Eric, you're taking too long. I could say, 10 minutes until we start. All kinds of different things I can use this presenter chat for. You can have essentially any kind of pod in this presenter-only area, so you're not limited. These are some of the pods that we recommend, the ones that you see here, the presenter chat. I also recommend, this is a notes pod, that into it we have listed an agenda. This is really great for all the different presenters and hosts to look and see exactly when things are going to happen at what point. So if this is my meeting, I know Mike is going to speak from 9:05 to 9:30, and then I know I'm on as soon as he finishes. And again, this is available to all the presenters, so they can see all of this. You don't have to send out, additional notes or be communicating by text or anything. It's all available right here in this presenter-only area. This is also a really great area to use to pre-stage content. So if I'm going to pull something into this room, I have a poll listed here, but I'll show you. Once I have this presenter-only area enabled, any pod I pull into the room will automatically come first into the presenter-only area. So let's say I want to add a new poll. That'll come in the presenter-only area, so only hosts and presenters can see it. Now I can go ahead and prepare this thing. Then when I'm ready, I just drag it out onto the main screen, and now my attendees can see it once I'm ready for them to see it. So again, this is a great way to pre-stage content. If you have a video that you'd like to have buffer and get ready to go, you can enable this presenter-only area, open it up, let it get ready, and then once you pull it out onto the main screen, that's when folks can see it. So I actually use this presenter-only area, even if it's just me in a meeting room, giving a training or a meeting, because it's just a great way to organize yourself, pre-stage content, really, really handy. So we'll go ahead and disable that just so we don't have a lot of clutter. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left. We're right on track. We'll finish up with the meeting tips and tricks, go into a couple of extras, and then we'll have just a few minutes for Q&A. So let's talk about enhanced participant rights. So automatically when a participant comes into a DCO room, they are essentially in read-only mode. They can chat in a chat box, they can ask questions, but that's pretty much it. So as a host, you may decide that you want one of your participants to, for example, take notes. But you may not want to give them host rights if they're not familiar with DCO. You don't want them, clicking around on things, making a mess of your meeting. So one way to do this is to give them enhanced participant rights. So go ahead and select their name under the pod options. You have this option that says attendee options, and then enhanced participant rights. So pod options, attendee options, enhanced participant rights. Once I click on this, now this gives me the ability to select the kind of pods that I would like to give this participant. So we talked about the notes pod example. Now I can just give this guest the ability to take notes for me. So they're not a host any longer, they're not a host now, they're still a participant, but now they can do things for me that I need them to do within the room. So again, you can multi-select participants with a shift key or the control key. If you want to give a bunch of people access to the notes pod or a share pod, really, really handy feature there. Okay, moving on to the extras. Let's talk real quickly about reports, and then we'll go on to custom pods and mobile devices. So we're going to jump over to the DCO portal for this. I will probably have to log back in. Nope, looks like I'm still logged in. So anytime you host a DCO session, DCO automatically captures some information about the room for you on the back end, so you don't have to do it yourself. So go ahead and select the meeting. I'm going to click View Details. And then you have this handy little toggle that says Reports. One of the best things this report does is show you who was in your meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and click on By Session. Now I can look and see all the times I've used this room and the number of attendees during each session. So we'll go ahead and click on one of these that had a bunch of attendees. Looks like there were 70 attendees in this session. Now this gives me an entire list of all the people who are in my room. I can copy and paste this right into Excel. So I don't have to sit down during my meeting and try and write down who was in the room or take screenshots of the attendee list. It's all captured for me automatically on the back end. So if my boss comes to me and says, you know, was Mike Murtha in this meeting? I can say yes, he was in from 12:50 to 14:59. So really, really handy little feature here. You can also look, it doesn't look like we have done any polling questions but in this meeting, but it does automatically capture your polling questions as well. Okay, so that's the report data. Go ahead and jump back to our main room. Okay, so custom pods. Hopefully some of you know about custom pods. If not, this may be very exciting for the rest of you. So DCO has what are called custom pods. These are essentially apps for your DCO meeting room. Some of these are functional, some of these are fun. These allow you to really extend the things that your DCO meeting room can do for you. So I just have a couple examples listed up here. This is a game that you could really distract your participants with, the penguin swing game. What you've seen in today's meeting, this is a countdown timer, shows people how long you have until the meeting is over, an MP3 player. So these custom pods are pieces of Flash content that developers have put together. Most of them are free. We have consolidated a bunch of these into a DCO Connect meeting room, which will be available on the last slide for today, or excuse me, the last layout of today's meeting room that you can click on and go to. You would just need to download these the same way you would download, for example, a PowerPoint presentation, and then you just upload them directly into a SharePod, and then they're in your meeting room. So again, a really nice way to make your meeting room interesting and fun, and also easier to use for your participants. Okay, those are custom pods. And again, more information about the custom pods on the last layout for today's session. Okay, so let's talk mobile devices briefly. Actually, we're going to go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint presentation. So switching layouts here. Okay. So DCO on the go. For those of you who have smartphones, which is probably most of you, you can have DCO on your mobile device. So you can participate in and actually host meetings from your Android or your Apple device, phone or tablet. Really, really awesome feature. It's a little bit hard on a phone to host a meeting because the real estate is so small, but if you have access to a tablet, that's a perfect amount of real estate to use, and you can join your DCO meeting rooms that way. So you'll just want to search for either DCO Connect or Adobe Connect in the App Store. So if you're on an Apple device, that's iTunes. If you're on Android, it's whatever their App Store is. It's a free download, and again, it allows you to participate in or host any of your meetings. This is an interesting screenshot from someone on our team who was actually on an airplane connected to the Wi-Fi watching a DCO session. Okay. So at this point, we have 9 minutes left. Perfect. I will go ahead and take any questions that we have now that my colleagues have not yet gotten to. And then we will do some polling questions and then to the last layout. So let me take a look at the Q&A pod and see if we have anything left to answer. Okay, tons of questions. That is great to see. Let me see if there's anything unanswered. Okay, so a good question, is there a step-by-step which covers each category covered today? We will send you the recording for today's session, so you can certainly watch this. We have a lot of training also available on the DCO portal. So if you want to watch just a specific item, there are 5 to 10 minute movie clips that you can watch. So if you've forgotten, for example, how to create a poll, you can go in and watch just the movie on creating polls. Those are all available for you on the DCO portal. Okay, there are tons of questions, so I'm probably not going to get to them all today, but we'll follow up offline with anyone who has a question that we didn't get to. So one question, can I remove a user from the room? Yes, as a host you are able to do that. You would just click on the user that you no longer would like to see in your room, and under the pod options you have the ability to just get rid of that user. So that's a really important feature if there's someone who has come in as a guest and you're not allowing guest access or won't identify themselves, you can certainly remove a user. So a question on whether we'll be getting a copy of the questions and answers from today's session. I'll have to defer that question to Sam. Maybe she can answer that in the background. That would be a great thing to be able to get to you, so I will defer to Sam on that. Can I rename the pod titles? Yes, you can. As a host, you would just need to double-click on the pod title, and that will give you the ability to rename it to whatever you'd like. Okay, another question. Let me go ahead, while we're going through this Q&A period, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the polls question, or excuse me, the polls layout. I want to make sure I allow